Listening section full review. As we come to the end of this section, we will have a look at all the question types once again, quickly and briefly. We'll see the basics that we need to do, and with the help of an example, we will re-emphasize the concepts once again. So let's begin. Summarize spoken text. Similar to the summarized written text question type, you have to write a summary based on the recording. The audio is 60 to 90 seconds. You have to write 50 to 70 words, 1 or 2 questions of this type, and 10 minutes to answer each question. And it also contributes to your writing score. So that's important. Now let's look at an example. I'll play the audio. After that, you can pause the video for 10 minutes. I won't wait for 10 minutes. You can pause it, try to answer the question, and then look at the sample response.
In the US, the average American spends 3% of their income on energy. In contrast, low-income and rural populations can spend 20, even 30% of their income on energy. In 2015, this caused over 25 million people to skip meals to provide power to their homes. This is when energy becomes a burden. But energy burdens are so much more than just a number. They present impossible and perilous choices. Do you take your child to get her flu medicine, or do you feed her? Or do you keep her warm? It's an impossible choice, and nearly every month, 7 million people choose between medicine and energy. This exposes a much larger and systemic issue. Families with high energy burdens are disproportionately people of color, who spend more per square foot than their white counterparts. But it's also nurses, veterans, and even school teachers who fall into the mass of 37 million people a year who are unable to afford energy for their most basic needs.
Let's look at the sample response for this. People in low-income areas spend as much as 20 or 30% of their income on energy, in comparison with an average American who spends only about 3%. For such people, energy comes at cost of other important things in life. It is seen that people of color feel this burden the most. So now the most important thing to do here is you need to work on your listening skills so that you can understand the central theme and you can understand the key points. What's important is that you are able to take notes when you listen. So practice, develop a good way of taking notes that makes sense to you, that works for you. And also when you are listening, you should try to visualize and form connections in your mind. That makes it much easier to understand. And after that, once you've done that, then your first step should be to take all the points in the notes and everything that you wondered and start combining them into the sentences. And always leave a couple of minutes in the end for a review so that you can ensure that you have covered all the key points. If not, you can revise your response. And if you have made any grammatical or spelling mistakes, you can also correct them in the end. The next question type, multiple choice, multiple answers. Similar to the reading question type, you listen to a recording here and then you answer a question by selecting all the correct options from a list of options that's given. The audio is 40 to 90 seconds, 1 or 2 questions of this type. Pay attention, this has negative marking. So don't select too many options randomly, but always select at least one because the minimum score can't go below 0. Let's look at a question. I'll play the audio.
Do you remember when you were a child? You probably had a favorite toy that was a constant companion, like Christopher Robin had Winnie the Pooh, and your imagination fueled endless adventures. What could be more innocent than that? Well, let me introduce you to my friend Kayla. Kayla was voted Toy of the Year in countries around the world. She connects to the internet and uses speech recognition technology to answer your child's questions, respond just like a friend. But the power doesn't lie with your child's imagination. It actually lies with the company harvesting masses of personal information while your family is innocently chatting away in the safety of their home. A dangerously false sense of security. This case sounded alarm bells for me, as it is my job to protect consumers' rights in my country. And with billions of devices, such as cars, energy meters, and even vacuum cleaners expected to come online by 2020, we thought this was a case worth investigating further. Because what was Kayla doing with all the interesting things she was learning? Did she have another friend she was loyal to and shared her information with? Yes, you guessed right. She did. In order to play with Kayla, you need to download an app to access all her features.
And the correct options, the second and the fourth one. So in this question type, the first thing that you immediately do before the audio starts is look at the question and quickly glance at the question, try to understand what you're supposed to do, and then quickly glance at the options. So what this does is it helps you understand what exactly are you listening for. So when in the audio, you hear information related to the words or the things that are mentioned in the question prompt, and in the options, you pay more attention to them. And then along with that, you can also take down notes. That's of course is important. But when you are listening, when the audio is playing, also keep your eye on the question screen, and you can eliminate or shortlist some options at the same time. Don't waste too much time once the audio ends. When the audio ends, quickly refer to your notes, try to remember what you've understood, and based upon that, finalize your answer. The next question type is fill in the blanks. In this, you see a transcript on your screen that corresponds to the audio that you will listen to. The transcript has a few blanks in them, and what you have to do is you have to listen to the audio and then pick the word from the audio that goes into that particular blank. So basically, you have to read and listen and then type the words into the blank at the same time. The audio is 30 to 60 seconds. You will get 2 or 3 questions of this type, and this contributes to your writing score as well. Let's look at an example. I'll play the audio. You try to fill in the blanks.
It may come as a surprise, but we even take into consideration the desires of our littlest citizens, babies and toddlers. From toddlers, we learn that the joy of walking comes from what you discover along the way. When they evaluated the walkability of Boulder's 19th Street corridor, toddlers spent long stretches exploring leaves in a ditch and sparkles in the sidewalk. They reminded us to slow down and design a path where the journey is as important as the destination. In addition to trees and plants, kids almost always include animals in their designs.
Let's look at the answers. So these are the words. Now here, before the audio begins, you can quickly glance at the transcript and pay attention to, try to read the words before the blanks. So that when in the audio you start hearing those words, you know that this is something you should pay attention to, because soon you will hear the word that will go into that particular blank. And there are 2 ways you can approach this. You can type directly into the blanks, or you can note down in your rough scratch pad as you're listening. And then in the end, from your rough notepad, you can refer to it and then type the words into the blanks. So decide on one approach and stick to that approach in the exam. In the end, quickly review at whatever you have typed, because sometimes you'll be able to capture some spelling mistakes or some grammatical mistakes. So correct them and then immediately go to the next question. Don't waste your time anymore. The next question type, highlight correct summary. So this is a combination of a multiple choice and a summary type question. So you will listen to an audio and your focus is on understanding the key points and the theme. The options that are given to you, each option is supposed to represent a summary of the recording, and you have to select the option that best represents that summary, right? That best represents the summary for that recording. The audio is 30 to 90 seconds and you have 1 or 2 questions of this type, and this contributes to your reading score as well. So quite nice. That's an added bonus. Let's look at an example. I'll play an audio. You try to pick the summary.
So there are 3 arguments being made. One is that India is developing a series of short-range ballistic missiles. Second is it's building, and these in theory could be armed with nuclear weapons. 2, it's developing multiple re-entry vehicles, and multiple re-entry vehicles allow you to place multiple warheads on a single missile. And there are two kinds of multiple re-entry vehicles. One is just a multiple re-entry vehicle whereby if you, say, place 3 or 4 warheads on a single missile, you can target one, you can use the 3 warheads or 4 warheads to target a single target. So, for example, if you're attacking London, the missile will deploy 3 warheads at different parts of the city and destroy it more systematically. Or you have something called MIRV, independently targetable vehicles, and these can attack different targets. So one could attack Oxford and one could attack London, if you will. During the Cold War, for example, MIRV missiles were considered highly crisis unstable because, in theory, a country could launch ballistic missiles with MIRV warheads and destroy an adversary's nuclear arsenal very quickly in a first strike. So these were considered extraordinarily destabilizing. So India is developing these, and finally, India is building a ballistic missile defense. It has initiated this program over the last 10 years. And if some news reports are to be believed,
The option that best represents the summary of this audio is option number 1. Now, here, again, before the audio starts, quickly glance at the various options, because that tells you more or less what the theme of the audio is going to be about. And then when you start listening, take notes, keep an eye on the options, and once the audio ends, then one by one, look at the options, compare them with the information that you have in your notes, that you have visualized, that you have understood, and then finalize the best option. Now, the best option contains all the key points from the summary, and the other thing, it does not contain anything that contradicts the audio or anything that was not in the audio. So it contains all the key points that were there in the audio and nothing else. So that's how you decide which is the best summary for this audio. Next question type, multiple choice, select single answer. This is similar to the other multiple choice question, but here this is simpler. You only have to select one option because only one option is correct. The audio is 30 to 90 seconds and you'll get 1 or 2 questions of this type. There's, of course, no negative marking because you have to select only one option. Let's look at an example. Let me play this for you.
This district serves around 4,500 mostly low-income students, and in the short time Dr. Hickman has been the superintendent, it has seen tremendous and successful changes, such as a district-wide shift away from textbooks to open educational resources, and a push to secure devices for student use. Dr. Hickman originally began his career in Houston, the largest school district in Texas with over 200,000 students, but he specifically chose to apply to this smaller district on the advice of his mentor. So
the correct option is option number 3. I'm sure you, by now, you know what's the right way to approach this question. Before the audio begins, read the question, quickly glance at the options, and when the audio starts, you take notes, keep an eye on the options as well, so that if possible, you can shortlist or eliminate some of the options. And when the audio ends, you refer to your notes, plus what you've understood, plus what you've visualized, and based upon that, one by one, you validate all the options, and then select the final option, submit, and go to the next. So here, the things to keep in mind, again, the correct option is the one that can be validated against something that has been said in the audio. So all parts of that, right? Make sure you understand the options properly and validate everything that's covered in that option against what's there in the audio. And the option, it should not contradict. It should not be based upon your general knowledge. It should be solely on what has been mentioned in the audio. That has to be your criteria. The next question type, select missing word. You will listen to an audio and the last word or the last few words of that audio have been beeped out. So you won't hear them. But you will see a list of options and you have to pick the option which, if you select, it will complete the sentence. So which basically is the word or the words that have been beeped out. The audio is 20 to 70 seconds and you'll have 1 or 2 questions of this type. And of course, like most listening questions, and only an overall time limit applies. Let's do an example.
Today we're standing in the map room, which is located on the ground floor, just opposite the elevator up to the president's private quarters. This room was used in the early 20th century as a billiard room in the Wilson administration. By the time the Roosevelts were here in the 1930s, it was called the trophy room. It was a place where gifts were received and set around on bookshelves and tabletops. Right after the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, planning went into way to give the president a situation room, a room that was then called the map room, a place where he could consult secret documents and communiques from the fronts. This room was selected because it was very close to that elevator and allowed the president to come down in his wheelchair, roll across the hall, and come into this private space. It in fact was reserved for the president and a select group of military officers who staffed the room. It was not open to the Secret Service. They had to stay outside and protect the president from outside the door, but it was not open to...
The correct option is option number 2, just anybody to come in. Now, in this question type, you pay attention to the instructions. That's the first thing. So, especially the first sentence, because it tells you what the recording is about, which in this case is about a historical place. And then you quickly glance at the options. So, if there are any you think are suitable or totally out of place, so you can shortlist or eliminate. And this is only the first step. It's not that you right away make up your mind, but it can guide you in that direction. And then when the audio starts playing, you pay attention, try to understand the theme, and especially as the audio comes towards the end, you try to listen to the last few words and try to remember them exactly as they're spoken in the audio. Because what you will do, then you will take those words and you will combine them one by one with all these options, and that will help you to select the correct option. Because the correct option, when you combine the last few words with that option, it will complete the meaning, it will be grammatically correct. So that's what you have to do. Next question type, highlight incorrect words. So this is similar to the fill in the blanks, but here you don't type in the word, but rather in the transcript that you are seeing, there are no blanks, but some words, they are different from the words which are there in the audio. And in this question type, those words which are different, they are called incorrect words. So basically, you have to click on those different words and highlight them. So just as in the fill in the blanks, you listen to the audio and then from that you pick the word which can go into a blank and complete the blank. Here, you listen to the audio and then decide which word is different from what you are seeing on the transcript, and you click and highlight that word in the transcript. The audio is 15 to 50 seconds. And you have 2 or 3 questions of this type in the exam, and let's look at an example. So I'll play and you try to pick the wrong words.
Known for his dribbling, finishing, and ability with both feet, Neymar has earned comparisons to former Brazil and Santos forward Pelé. Off the pitch, he ranks among the world's most prominent sportsmen. Sport Pro named him the most marketable athlete in the world in 2012 and 2013. And ESPN cited him as the world's 4th most famous athlete in 2016.
The incorrect words are these. So what you do here before the audio begins, you quickly glance and you try to understand what it's about. And then you get ready to listen. You put your hand on the mouse and place the cursor on the first word. And your entire focus is on listening and then selecting the words from the text. So as soon as you hear a word that's different, you immediately click. You should make sure that you do not fall behind. If you think that the speaker has gone ahead and you are still on first sentence, then just move your eyes and move your hand to where the speaker is. Don't bother about the rest of the sentence, but try to follow along. And there's no real need to review in the end, right? Because in this question type, it will only confuse you. There's also no need to take notes here. Of course, if you think you have clicked on a word by mistake, then you can click on it again to remove the highlight. But other than that, once you're done with this question, you can simply go to the next question. Now, write from dictation. So a simple dictation task, you will listen a short recording and you have to write it as it is. 3 to 5 seconds audio. 3 or 4 questions of this type contributes to your writing score as well. All the words that you type correctly, you'll get a point for them. The words that you miss or the words that you misspell, you write them, but you misspell them, you write them incorrectly. For those words, you will not get any marks. Look at an example I'll play. You try to write it down.
By 1955, however, it was becoming increasingly obvious.
This is what it was. By 1955, however, it was becoming increasingly obvious. So if you've got these words and you've got them, written them correctly, you will get full marks. It's as simple as that. So there's nothing much to do here, not much preparation. You only have to focus, be alert, be ready to listen, and be ready to take down the dictation. The two ways you can go about it: you can type directly into the text box, or you can first note it down. You can write it down in the form of notes, and then from that you can type in the text box. Okay, so decide on one approach. If in either way, you have to follow along the audio. So whether you are typing or you are writing it down by hand, if you think you're still on first word but the speaker is moving ahead, then quickly go along. You can come back, leave the word in half that you are writing, because you can come back later and complete typing that word. Okay. In the end, whatever is there, look at it. If there's a word which is not complete, complete it. Use your logic, use your grammatical knowledge to complete the sentence. And if you made any spelling mistakes, correct them. So quite simple. Now, a few tasks for you. Do practice this. Now, listening is a very interesting section. It has the largest number of question types, but many of them contribute to other sections as well, to reading, to writing. And many people who, for example, they struggle with their writing, they can't write good essays. But if you do well in the listening section, it can contribute quite a bit to your writing score. So make sure that your focus should be, you should do everything possible to get the maximum marks possible out of the listening section. Listen to academic audio every day, maybe 15-20 minutes. Close your eyes, just listen to a university podcast or a lecture on an interview on an academic topic. When you listen, you try to visualize, try to understand, and in the end, try to write it down, because that's the best way to judge how much you have understood. And when you listen to academic audio, expose yourself to different topics, different accents, different speeds. For example, listen to a lecture by an Australian professor, a British professor, an American professor. One lecture can be on health, another can be on economics, another can be on environment, right? And different speeds. So you can have some lectures spoken slowly, some by somebody who speaks very fast. So that variety, that's very important, because in the exam also you will get a mix of different accents, a mix of different speeds, a mix of different topics. So this is important. Practice comprehension questions. Determine how much time you need to spend on which question type. So when you practice, you will be able to figure out which questions are easy for you, which questions are difficult for you. Then you can allocate a bit more time to the questions that you find difficult and lesser time to the ones which come easy to you. So do these things, do plenty of practice, and I'm quite sure you can score if you make up your mind and you work hard. You can score full marks in the listening section.